Hey, this is Casey with Simple Archery, and today I'm going to tell you why I'm not keeping the Samick Sage takedown recurve bow, and you might not want to either. Stay tuned. The Samick Sage is the most popular takedown recurve bow on the market today, and for good reason. It's a well-made, quality recurve bow. But ultimately, I'm sending mine back. For me, I prefer Southwest Archery's Spider XL, and today I'm going to tell you why. First off, let me say this review isn't as ominous as it might seem. The title kind of makes it sound like I found something terribly wrong with the Samick Sage, and that's just not the case. In fact, if you look at the cases, or actually the boxes that these two bows come in, you'll notice something very interesting. They're nearly identical. There's a good reason for that, because these two bows are designed by the same company, and both of them are good quality takedown recurve bows. Now, Samick makes the Sage, which is 62 inches, and the identical but longer Journey, which is 64 inches. Southwest Archery then came out with the Spider, which is 62 inches, and the Spider XL, which is 64 inches. And the Spider is essentially a new and improved version of the Sage. Now I'm going to quickly go over some of the specs of these two bows and talk about how they're similar and how they're different. And ultimately, the differences are the reason that I'm not keeping the Sage. First off, starting with the riser, both of these bows have a riser that's around 19.5 inches long. They're made in both right and left-hand models. The Samick Sage has a combination of laminated diamond wood and hard maple. Diamond wood, in case you're wondering, is a resin wood veneer. It's laminated and compressed. The Spider is similar to that, but has a new redwood finish. Now, the advantage of a riser that's made out of these materials is one, that it's very stable. Okay, the wood in this riser won't shrink or warp. Secondly, it's very strong. I think you could probably drive a truck over this riser and nothing would happen to it. Don't try that. Now, both of these bows have an awesome grip design. It's extremely comfortable, assuming that you have a correct grip and a light grip pushing toward the target. This is, I think, the best grip that you can have on a recurve bow. Both of these risers are drilled with an accessory hole for stabilizer or bow fishing reel. They're also drilled for a screw-in style rest or for a cushion plunger, and a hole for a bow sight. These are modeled after some older style recurves that allowed for switching out the limbs, using lighter limbs for target shooting and heavier limbs for hunting. So limbs are available and can be switched out on these all the way from 25 pounds up to 60 pounds. Both of these bows have a medium limb with dual core maple. They also have black fiberglass on both sides of the limb. They don't have a very hard recurve, which gives you a very smooth draw, and both bows have reinforced limb tips and are fast string compatible. Both of these bows have a 16-string Dacron recurve bowstring. Now let me cover a few differences between these two bows. Now, both of these bows have a limb that is aligned with a bolt and an aluminum tray. The tray is an affordable way to keep the limbs aligned. More expensive bows come with dual pins or a limb bolt and pin system. These trays do take away from the look of the bow some, but the Spider wins out here again because its rounded edges make the limb tray look better. Also, concerning the limbs, the Sage uses a limb bolt with a big plastic knob so that it can be hand tightened. The Spider has flush limb bolts that require an Allen wrench. I really prefer the flush limb bolts. Yes, with those limb bolts you need an Allen wrench to take the limbs off and put them on, but the only reason that I would do that is when I'm putting heavier limbs on for hunting. Now, I personally don't use my recurve bow like I use my fly rod, where I go from place to place and I break it down in between. If you do use your recurve bow like that, you might prefer the Samick Sage, where you can hand tighten those bolts. But for me, I prefer the sleeker look of the flush limb bolts. Now for the main reason that I'm choosing the Spider XL over the Samick Sage. Stacking. Stacking is essentially when the limbs of a recurve bow have reached their flexing limit. This happens at a certain draw length, and it becomes much harder to draw past that length. The Samick Sage says that it's made for draw lengths up to 28 inches. My draw length is 28 inches, so I'm right at the limit. But I find there's a lot of stacking around 26 inches. And even for a lower weight target recurve at 26 inches, it's not that great of a shooting experience. Now, to show you what I'm talking about with this, I have this arrow and I've marked 24, 26, and 28 inches on this just to give you a demonstration. Now it's tough to fit all of this in the frame, but if you watch the riser at this point, you'll see as the red markers come by, and we can tell when it gets much harder to draw the bow. There at about that point, 26 inches, the bow really starts stacking. So what does all this mean? If you're trying to choose between these two bows, which one should you get? Well, ultimately this review is not saying one bow is bad and the other is good. For me, I prefer the Southwest Archery Spider XL. There's the matter of aesthetics, I think it looks better, and then secondly, there's a matter of performance. If you have a draw length that is nearing 26 inches or longer than 26 inches, I believe that you should go with the Spider XL. It'll be a much better fit for you. You won't have to deal with the stacking. It is a much more comfortable shooting experience.